to do, and then I can't move back to science. So that was it for me. And then after doing electrical engineering at KNUST, I really thought that law was really what I wanted to do. And so that's what happened with me.
Okay. And Aaron, you are a pupil at Kusiapia, which means that you recently got called. Congratulations, because it's not an easy feat. Would you say that you've always wanted to do law as well, or is it something that you just fell into?
So thank you very much for the congratulations, and thank you for having me. A good evening to everyone that's on. So my story is also quite similar to my brothers or my seniors, you may put it. I was a science student at Prempeh College. I wanted to be a medical doctor, but then as fate would have it, after secondary school, I found myself at the KNUST Faculty of Law, and here I am. So I wanted to be a medical doctor, but I'm a lawyer now. So I think that's how my story has been. Yeah.
That's interesting. So we have 3 scientists on here, and I just want to know, do you think that your study of science before doing law shaped the way that you studied law, or shaped like how you practice law now? Maxwell, do you mind going first?
I think that if from my experience it was I mean 2 different if I say system, because in science it's all about memorizing, trying to follow steps, trying to memorize stuff, but in law we all know it's not like that. Law is very open and vague. There's no correct and there's no right answer. It's what you think it is that you have to write. So at the beginning, it was really challenging for me, because in science, I was always doing calculations, trying to memorize my chemical equations and all that. But in law, it was different. So that was a challenge for me. But I would say after 3 to 5 months, I was okay and adapted to the legal system. Yeah.
That's very good. Eubank, would you say that that's something similar for you?
Not necessarily. I feel like doing engineering has really helped me in my law practice, because in a way it has helped me and in a way it hasn't. I mean, in the early years when I started off, because science is more about process and sometimes there's not such much flexibility with it, so I was a bit very rigid, right? But you can also think of it in another way, because science is also about logic, and law in itself, logic is a very important part of it. It's actually helped me in my practice. Yeah.
Since you work in the energy sector, would you say that it's something that has assisted your work in the energy sector?
Well, I think so, because my company is mainly focused on energy and I did electrical engineering. It's always, you have a better appreciation of issues, even if it's contract agreements, you tend to understand it better than if you ordinarily didn't do anything like that. So it has helped me in what I do currently. Yeah.
And Aaron, would you say that that's a similar situation for you?
Thank you very much. So, you know, the general perception is that science students are quite serious. So I think that helped me. And initially, when
Aaron, you're breaking up a little. I'm not sure if it's the network.
I had some of my friends saying, Aaron, are you sure about this? Oh, sorry, is it better now? Can I be heard now or still?
It's slightly better.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I was saying that I had some of my friends questioning my decision to read law at the faculty, because they felt that moving was a shift that would not really help me. I had a little bit of a challenge in first year, because I remember in first year we read economics, a little bit of economics, and I had never read economics, so I struggled a bit, but eventually I was able to find my feet, and then here I am. So I think generally the experience has been good. Yeah.
So Stephen and I are working the same thing. How everybody says that lawyers hate math, but here we are. We have 3 scientists who are doing law. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was recently we heard in the news of a lawyer called Richard Amma, and his 11-year journey to the bar. And you know, the the troubles that he went through to be able to even enter the Ghana Law School in the first place. And he even spoke about his troubles starting LLB to begin with, and then going on to Ghana Law School, and then his struggle to even come out of the law school, which took him 11 years to do in total. I just want to know, for anybody here, especially our seniors, would you say that in your time, I'm not trying to say you're old, but in your time, would you say that things were a little different as compared to maybe Eubank and Aaron's experience?
Okay, I think in my time, things were significantly different from what is happening now. It so happens that we were the first batch to have written exams, but then still the numbers were very few. So it was just about less than 5 people who couldn't make it in our time because they couldn't pass the exam. But generally, largely, all the people who wrote the exam in my year passed and was able to enter into the law school. So I had quite a significantly different experience from what is happening now. We didn't have to go through the full rigors of. In fact, I'll tell you an interesting story. So we, at first, we weren't doing the national service right after LLB. You could just proceed to law school, do your bar pass, and then you do your national service afterwards. So the year we finished, we thought it was going to be the same process. So yes, myself and my brother, we prepared ourselves, and then we were informed that there was going to be an interview. So we prepared ourselves for the interview. We got to the law school campus on that day, and we were informed that you actually have to do national service before you enter the law school. Yes. So it was quite a difficult period or a difficult moment for some of us because we felt we were entering the law school in that year, but then Ghana Law School had other plans. So yes, we had to go do the national service and then reapply the following year. But as I said, when we reapplied the following year, there was exams and then there was an interview, but largely all those who wrote the exams largely managed to enter into the law school. And yes, so that's my experience. It's significantly different from what happens now.
And Maxwell, would you say that that's something similar that you experienced as well?
Yes, I experienced a similar thing during my year. In fact, Richard, Amma and I were in the same class back in the faculty. Yeah, that was 2012 to 2014. We're in the same class back in the faculty. And my time, we were the last batch, I think, that transitioned from the law school way of exams to the independent examination board. We were the last batch to do both the old and the new system. And I think that, and we also did both interview and writing the exams. I think since they started exams, it hasn't been easy for anyone to enter into the law school. I think it has really been a challenge. The only difference is that now the numbers are huge. But even my time compared to the number of people that wrote the exams and those who passed, it was quite, a number of people who failed. But it was challenging. Just like it is today. And even now, I think that now it's even easier because now there's no interview. Once you pass the exams, you're just going straight to law school.
I see that Eubank is laughing at you.
No, but I think that now those days you have to worry about the exams and worry about the interview as well. Even though people don't usually fail the interview, but I've seen 1 or 2 people who failed the interview during my time. So it has always been challenging. Entering into the law school. Yeah.
So being from a different jurisdiction, I think my personal experience is a little different because to enter the law school, you do an aptitude test. It's a logic test, which in itself is quite difficult, but most people pass. The point of the logic test is to see how well you can do at the bar. And so it doesn't necessarily stop you from entering. But then I think once you enter, it's a different matter altogether. I just brought this in to ask Aaron and Eubank, who recently actually went through all these things. Eubank even went to protest. I remember that. And I just want to know, what do you think was the difficulty for you? And what do you think could improve in terms of the Ghana Law School and how they should do things? Eubank, if you go first. Aaron, we are doing seniority today.
Sure.
I feel like there's so much to improve, but the first thing is really the transparency with the system. Sometimes it feels like it's more of luck than actually working hard, because you're in there and at any point in time, you feel like you've done it, but because the system is not as transparent as it is, you could do your best and you could still fail. So there's so much, everything is clouded in so much secrecy. And that's probably the first step that they could take, making everything transparent. And one other thing which has been mentioned a lot of the time is also has to do with the remarking fee and all that. And even the fees. Law is increasingly becoming expensive. And it means that people are, unless you are probably as rich as, you might probably not have access to law itself. And so that's also an issue. In terms of examination and all that, I think that gradually they are moving away from the IEC system. I think now the lecturers themselves set the questions and then mark again. And so that in itself is some form of progress. But then I just feel like maybe they could be a little bit more transparent with their system. That's it.
Okay, so to bring this up again, so I can only compare with what I have personally done. I'm just wondering, what do you think about standardized marking? Because if we are all supposed to learn the same thing and there should be a standard in terms of the profession, do you think that lecturers marking their own students' work means that they're actually teaching well, or is there a problem with the system in terms of that?
I get where you're coming from. I think that in an ideal world, that should be the situation. But sometimes, from previous years, you could tell that sometimes the lecturers the people who mark are not involved in the system, so they don't actually understand what goes into the system. So I feel like the lecture system is really better because they teach the students, and at the end of the day, they know what they've taught. And the students are also going to go by that. So even though the standard system, as used in other jurisdictions, is probably the best way, and probably going forward, if they can fine-tune the system, that's probably the best way to go around it. But as it stands now, till all the issues are dealt with, I think that the current system is better than going with the whole IEC system.
Aaron, what about you? What was your experience entering the law school?
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to talk about the fact that I feel the administration of the law school can be improved, because there are times when, for instance, even notices that are supposed to be sent to students come at very late times. Sometimes almost like a day or two to the activity they expect you to perform or do. For instance, within our call week, there was a registration we were supposed to do, a form we had to pick and find our seniors and fill. And the notice came very late. And sometimes students are subjected through stress that I feel can be done away with or can be handled better. Another thing that I feel can be done better at the law school has to do with our examination. We write exams just once in a whole year. I know that probably it's standard, but it is a lot we are studying. And then the requirement that a law student has to meet before he prepares or sits for a professional exam is very daunting. So sometimes if you look at the syllabus and then the range that the lecturers or IEC has to set questions from, sometimes it is inhuman to expect a student, a human being, to be able to prepare and then write such an exam. So I feel that they can do something about the exam. Maybe we can have a mock or a midsem or something that can reduce the range that IEC or the lecturers have to set questions from, especially for a whole academic year. So that's what I think too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So being at the bar now, I think I'll direct my next question to you because you are the pupil. What would you say your expectations were before you became a pupil, before you got called to the bar? And then how is it different from what you are facing now?
Okay, thank you very much. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is money. I mean, just like you rightly said at the beginning, people have the perception that this is a very lucrative profession. I mean, our seniors have told us and that eventually the profession pays. That is, if you work hard, if you are diligent enough, if you are truthful, and then you pay your dues to the profession, eventually you are going to enjoy or get your money. But honestly, I felt that after school, right after school, I was going to get an amount of money or a salary that was quite, substantial. But during my second year internship, the reality and everything started dawning on me, and it was all coming to me. And I was like, wow, because we heard stories of lawyers who had just been called to the bar, who did not even have a place to do their pupillage, and eventually had to go to, for instance, legal aid and beg to just have a place to do their pupillage for the 6-month period without any salary at all. So I felt that, wow, then I'm really privileged if I have a place and I can maybe at least get something. Then I just have to make sure I learn and then develop my skills and knowledge to the best of my ability. And then eventually, with hard work and diligence, it's going to pay. So my expectations were really high when I was in school. And then because I was also like everybody expecting some whooping sum, but now I have really come to understand that it takes time and it's a gradual process. So yeah.
Okay, Eubank, since you were also one of the most recent, in terms of finances and money, what was your experience with regard to that? I've heard that some pupillages don't even pay at all, but they are just as tedious, and then some of them pay a good sum. I've heard some firms that pay very well as well. What would you say your experience is?
I think that for most of us is disappointing. That's it. That's the best way to put it. Because being a lawyer, I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying the same on the basis that I'm entitled or anything, but at least you feel like there's a certain standard amount that firms shouldn't go below. And once you get into law practice, for most of us, we get to realize that that's the situation before we actually get into law practice, but it's a bit underwhelming, honestly, in terms of the monetary aspect. And probably, I don't know what could be done about it, but if we don't take care, it's going to get worse and worse because pupillage is compulsory, and that's the thing about it. It's compulsory, and so you need to actually do it to actually get your solicitor's license. And then it will get to we are producing more and more lawyers, and so we'll get to a point where the fresh lawyers will actually be at a disadvantage because you are the one who needs to go through the process to actually acquire a solicitor's license. And if we don't take care, pupillage will be a means to actually exploit new and junior lawyers. And so it's something that we need to do about it. If the bar can actually do something about it, I don't know if they can set a standard rate for law firms, and I don't know if that's possible, but it's something that they should actually look into.
Thank you, Eubank. Stephen, how about you? What was your expectation when you entered the bar and then started pupillage, and then what actually happened when you finally started?
Okay, so I'll look at it from two angles. Yes, I'll come and talk about the monetary aspects, but then I want to look at my expectations with regards to the practice itself. So for me, luckily for me, I had a conversation with a senior who happens to be a brother, and then he gave me a lot of assurances, or I should say, he talked to me about what to expect with regards to when you enter the practice and what you should do. So he made me realize that, you know what, apples don't just fall from the tree. You have to work for it. So if you want to excel as a lawyer, if you want to be a good lawyer at that, you need to apply yourself to the job. And I happened to find myself in a law firm where there was much to do, but you actually could be there for maybe a week, a month, and you haven't really done anything. As I said, it all depends on how well you apply yourself to the work. So I had a little bit of that advice from this person. So right from the get-go, I decided this is what I want to do. I need to learn the law as much as I can. So doing the long hours, doing the overnights, doing the what have you, anything that would make me know the law as much as I can. I applied myself to it. So I got that advice early on in my practice. So I had that at the back of my mind. Now, with regards to the money aspects, yes, of course. And again, it's the perception out there. I believe that the law eventually pays, but then it is a process. So you are there, you are entering the law school, you've seen some senior lawyers who are doing so well in life, and you think, okay, this job is actually good. So you enter and then you want your life to turn around overnight. And that is the problem sometimes we find ourselves in. I believe that, as I said, it's a gradual process. I understand the fact that there are times that some law firms do exploit people. But I think, and again, I like to borrow Maxwell's words. He says, manage your expectations. I believe that's about it. You just have to manage your expectations. So yes, the law might eventually pay, but then when you enter as a fresh lawyer, I mean, it is a process. That is not to hold you for some law firms who are looking to exploit people. As Eubank said, we might get to a time where people are just exploiting, where seniors are just exploiting lawyers. Not to hold you for them, but then manage your expectations such that just know that at the early stages of the practice, the learning process is more important than looking for an astronomical breakthrough with the whole idea that once you've been called to the bar, you are going to be able to, let's say, build your dream house in 6 months. No, that's not going to happen. That is not the reality. But then at least something to keep body and soul together. There should be something reasonable to keep body and soul together, but not really expectations of an overnight turnaround of your life. That's really is not going to happen. In reality, it doesn't happen as such. So my expectation was, yes, apply yourself to the law, learn it as much as you can. Eventually, it will pay. And that is what I can tell anyone who solicits for my advice, that, you know what, at the beginning, it's not going to be all rosy. Things are going to be a little difficult or challenging. But then once you apply yourself to the law, as time goes on, eventually the law will pay. Yes.
Thank you, Stephen. So Maxwell, in terms of managing your expectations, so would you say that when you were going to law school, those are the ideas that you had? And so when you started at the bar, you weren't really shocked at what happened to you? And were your experiences different from what you thought they were going to be?
For me, I think that the expectation of becoming a lawyer, I mean, stems from two angles. One is the energy and time and resources that you put in to become a lawyer. And secondly, what you see your seniors doing at the bar. That's what actually informs your decision to expect what when you are called to the bar. And I don't think that there's any law student who thinks that becoming a lawyer, you don't have to put in the hard work, because right from law school, you have sleepless nights. You know, you are always, I mean, stressed out learning. So, and we are always told that that will continue even when we become lawyers. So I don't think that me working hard when I was called to the bar was actually a problem. My expectation in terms of monetary, I was really disappointed when I became, I mean, a lawyer, considering the amount of money and time that you've spent on learning and you become a lawyer, and in terms of finances, you're not meeting your expectations. It becomes, I mean, very disappointing. And I remember when I think it was our last family law class when one of our lecturers told us that we shouldn't think it's all rosy out there like that, and that as lawyers we should manage our expectations. And that is where I actually borrowed that phrase from, that manage your expectation. But the point is that I think we all agree that law firms in general, I mean, don't pay well. I mean, from what we know, I mean, not to sound anyway, law firms in general don't pay well. There are a few law firms who are actually doing well when it comes to, I mean, paying pupils, and you know, the rest, if in today's world somebody's taking even 2,000 at the end of the month, I mean, it's close to nothing compared to how difficult things are. But in general, as Stephen, my senior, rightly said, the law pays. That I'm not going to dispute that fact. It pays, but it takes time. But the question is, how long will it take? Still, people who are still trying to find their feet, even 9 years, 10 years at the bar. There are people who are 2 years at the bar who are also making it big. So at the end of the day, it depends on you, the individual, the path that you choose when you become a lawyer, and the law firm that you also find yourself in. So when I went out there and I felt the need to advise people, right? Especially majority of us will agree with me that in your first 2 to 3 years, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
If you
It's a
don't
big
take care,
aspect.
if you don't take care, you might stop practicing the law and find yourself doing something else. But I think it's an issue that cuts across and which must be addressed on the remuneration of lawyers, especially even not for an associate, at least for those who are doing their pupillage, just like national service, where there is a standard amount of money that is paid across board. I, for instance, think that the same thing can be, incorporated into the legal system where pupils will be paid in reality, compared to what is going on now, not paying somebody 500 Ghana cedis at the end of the month, paying somebody 700, paying somebody 1,000 Ghana cedis at the end of the month. I think that's a discussion that we must have as a noble profession. Yeah.
Thank you, Maxwell. Maxwell and Stephen, I want to throw this question to you. After being at the bar for quite a number of years and talking about the monetary issue and how you have to spend quite a number of years to build your practice, how would you say working in a law firm, what's your expectation of working in a law firm was compared to working by yourself as a private legal practitioner? What would you say the differences were, and was it what you expected it to be? Stephen, I think you can go first.
Okay. I think obviously if you choose to do things on your own, the returns are significantly different as compared to when you are working with people, or when you are working for someone else. Now, and I believe it cuts across every sphere of our life. The fact that if you happen to be on your own, the returns are significantly more encouraging than when you are working for other people. A lot of things go into it. So, for instance, if when you are working on your own, you also have an opportunity to decide how payments are going to be. You have an opportunity to decide how much you will be paid, how much you are paying yourself, how much you are paying your people that you are working with. And then again, structure is also important. There's kinds of structures that you put in place in your private practice. So it's a lot of flexibility when you are doing something on your own as compared to when you are working with someone. Now, when you are working for someone else, he determines the salary structure, he determines the payment models, he determines, and then again, so I came from a firm where we were doing commissions. So you get commissions on the cases that you work on. So if, for instance, there are 5 lawyers working on a particular case, the commissions are going to be shared based on your seniority, your level of involvement, and then the industry you put into it, which as sometimes it becomes difficult to quantify. So maybe in your estimation, you are thinking that you have put in so much energy, you have put in so much work into this. So maybe you expect something reasonable per your standard, but then at the end of the day, you might end up being disappointed. So that's the challenges that come along when you are working with people. But then when you have something doing on your own, as I said earlier, you have an opportunity to determine how your structures are going to be, how your payment system is going to be, so there is that significant sharp difference between working with people and then doing things for yourself.
Thank you, Stephen. And would you say that currently your money that you're earning is sufficient for you? Tell us how much. But after practicing a number of years at the bar and then being where you are now, would you say that you feel fulfilled in how you are?
No, there is still more room for improvement.
There's more room. And Stephen, I'm told that you've also worked in other parts of the country. I just want to know what your experience with that is and what you would say the difference is, because it seems as though there's quite a bit of concentration in Accra. So what's your experience regarding that?
Okay, so yes, I have done a couple of works in the other areas in Accra. I think largely I wouldn't say a problem, but the issue is that there are significantly most lawyers prefer to stay in Accra, and it's not only about law, it's about so there is the population in Accra. I think recently a survey was done where it turned out that majority of the lawyers are in Accra. So it makes the Accra practice quite different from what happens in the other parts of the country. So, for instance, you barely see a law firm in, let's say, Ashanti region that has about 20 lawyers in a law firm, and but then it's happening in Accra here. It all has to do with the population side, and also the concentration on the matters that are being dealt with in a particular law firm. So if, for instance, you are practicing in, let's say, Upper West, and then you set up an oil and gas, you set up a law firm where your concentration is on oil and gas, obviously, you are going to have that problem on your hands. So there is concentration in Accra, but I think largely it is also because of the industries that are and the companies that are more or less centered in Accra. So we have a lot of practice areas in Accra as compared to the other regions. So the other regions, the practices usually you have to define what you want, and you have to define the people that you are working with. So as I said, if it is not an industry in your region, you end up certain concentration on a particular field where you'll not be relevant in that region. So my people like land issues, land litigation. Okay. If you are setting up a law firm, it would be only, let's say, prudent to concentrate on land matters. So those are the dynamics. You look at the culture of the people, the industry of the people, to gear your practice towards that particular what pertains in that environment. So yes, due to the dynamics in the practicing areas, there is that sharp difference between the various regions. So each region has its peculiar way and style of practice. That is my personal observation from the few years that I have been traveling across the country.
Thank you, Stephen. And Max, being a senior as well, I just want to know what your experience with regards to working privately and then working in a firm is also like.
Well, let me first make the correction that I still work in a firm though. I'm not on my own. I still work in a firm. Yes, I'm just out in school now, but I still work in a firm. But I must say that working in the firm, of course, if you work in any organization, they decide how much to pay you. You don't determine how much you should be paid. At the end of the day, is whether you want to continue receiving that salary or you want to exit. So it actually depends on you, the individual, on what you want. But there are some time that you prioritize what you want to learn over how much you take, to see if there can be an improvement over some period. But whatever the salary, just like any worker, there's no room for improvement. So we all hope that our even if somebody's receiving $1 million a month, he will still wish that at one point to be increased to 1.2 million a month. So in the same vein, I think that there's more room for improvement. Yeah.
Thank you. So before I move on to asking questions from the audience, I just want to ask you, Van. So you work in-house, which is slightly different from what we see a lot of lawyers. I think being in law school, the flair also has to do with going to court and dealing with clients separately. So working in-house and having one client, what would you say your experience is, and why did you choose that path?
Okay, so for me, it was a very difficult decision to make because I feel like the practice as a junior is that normally you work with a law firm and then you transition in-house. So it was a very difficult decision to make. But after coming in-house, you know, the difficulty was that once you go in-house, you might become a bit redundant with the law. You might not get enough opportunity to learn. But sometimes I feel like your progression in life or in the law is sometimes really dependent on yourself. So if there's some experience that you feel like you can't get somewhere, you should try and do other things to try and get that experience. So going in-house it's been okay for me. It's been perfect for me because I get to work in a sector that I'd previously studied in, and so that transition has been it's been quite okay for me. So I've not had issues with moving in-house.
Okay, thank you, Eubank. So I'm just going to throw questions to the floor. I actually see that lawyer Richard Amma is on the call. So it would be great if he could also share his experience with us. That is, if he is still with us. But while we wait for him to join, I just want to take a quick ad from our sponsor, Enos Travels. Okay, I think he's probably stepped away for a second. So,
Hi.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I was actually caught off guard.
Yes, kindly go ahead.
Yes, so thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's really good to hear from such great lawyers. I never knew. I actually thought people could do some other courses and later go into law, but I mean, having 3 science students go into law, it's a miracle to me. Well, Enos Travels is proud to be sponsoring Lawyers Diaries every other Friday, and we are happy to be hearing from such experienced people. And we've been in a business for quite a long time, and anything that has to do with travels, travels is there for you. So whenever you think of traveling, whether it being flight reservation, hotel reservation, or that you want to go anywhere in the world, being it in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, or in the Americas, Enos Travels is there for you. We just opened an office in Ghana, and the office is on the 8th floor at the One Airport Square, which is just adjacent to the Marina Mall. We have a tour coming up. Yes, lawyer just put the flyer on there. We have a tour coming up in November, from November 17th to the 24th of November. We're going to Dubai through Kenya. So when you're part of this trip, you're experiencing 3 different continents, because you go to 3 different countries. From Ghana, you go to Kenya. From Kenya, you go to Dubai, and you go into a different continent as well. And apart from this, we also assist students who want to travel to the UK or to the USA. And actually today, we had a meeting with over 40 universities in the UK, and we are happy to announce that any of the lawyers in Ghana who want to have their masters in the UK, or any lawyer who would also want to practice in the UK, should just visit Enos Travels office, and we will be very happy to assist any of the lawyers in Ghana and all the people that sign up onto the Lawyers Diaries as well. Thank you very much, and hopefully you hear from me again in the next session of the Lawyers Diaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Enos Travels, for sponsoring this talk today. So I now want to open the floor up to the audience. I think today we will go slightly longer. So if anyone has any question, you can put your hand up, or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. I see that the chat is very busy. Eubank, a lot of people want to know what you have been up to. So there's a question from Na Dromo. So now you can go ahead. You can unmute yourself and just go ahead. Okay, I'm not sure if Na can hear me, but okay, while we wait for Na to go on with her question, is there anybody else who has a question?
I have a contribution. I don't know whether I'll be permitted to go ahead.
Yes, please, lawyer, say, please go on.
All right, so listening to all of you, it gives me some kind of joy to know and hear from Lawyer Stephen that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So once he has been able to let us know that things take time, I would also say that I'll align to his submissions. But just to say that in the practice of law, first of all, it depends on the kind of lawyer you want to be. Just as Stephen said, it depends on whether you want to be a corporate lawyer. If you want to be a corporate lawyer, what kind of corporate lawyer do you want to be? What section do you want to be known for? If you want to be a litigation lawyer, what is the kind of litigation that you want to do? You want to do just land litigation, or you want to be a jack of all trades? It will also depend on where you'd want your practice to be concentrated and be known for. I, for one, I started off as a litigation lawyer. First of all, I started off briefly in Kumasi, but in the practice in Kumasi, I know that most of the people know that the practice there is quite different when it comes to the Greater Accra in terms of remuneration. So I hardly will find a firm in Kumasi where you'll be given a monthly salary. Usually what happens in Kumasi is that you go with your senior has already taken the brief, and that with time, the brief may be passed to you, and you get to feed on the transportation that has been given to you by your clients. Some also work, and then at the end of the week, as you go and greet your senior, I'm going home, and your senior may pass some kind of transportation to you until you get to a level where maybe after a year or two, you manage your own clients, and then you start charging based on the clients that you manage personally. There are some firms that also do the commission type, where they'll give you a minimum commission, say 800 cedis. And then for the pupillage time, you'll be based on that salary of 800 cedis. After the pupillage, then you'll be given the choice whether to be a pupil and end that commission, or extend the pupillage and end the commission, or they will give you that commission-based contract, where in that sense, you are not an employee, so-called, but depending on the number of clients you bring, the cases that you get to work on, if the client pays, then the money is shared according to the structure of the firm. I'll give you an example. There is a firm which uses the quota system. At the end of the day, they take like 30 to 40% goes to the firm as a retainer fee. Then the remaining 60, they take the expenses from it. And then after that, the amount of money remaining, depending on the number of seniors that worked on the particular case, then it's divided based on the number of the seniors on the brief. There are other firms that also put in a minimum fee at the end of the month, 5,000 cedis, then they add on based on the case that you work on and based on the client's fee. So it's quite dicey. And then I heard Maxwell talking about whether there will be, no, it was Eubank, whether there will be some kind of a standardized system. That conversation is also quite difficult, because not all firms work on the same cases, and every firm has its own clientele base. They have their own vision, and they have a certain brand that they are building. We know of the Kimathis, we know of the Kulendis, we know of the Oxford and Burmont. They have a structure that has been there. If you are people coming in, that you're just coming in to fit the system that you're working on. And so that is also one aspect that makes the pupillage quite difficult. But all in all, I would side with my brother. Things take time. Things take time. And I believe that with time, everybody will be fine.
Thank you so much for that wonderful contribution, Lawyer. I'll say we didn't know you were on, so it's nice to hear from you. Francis, I see that you have a question. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I joined quite late. I'm not sure if anybody has addressed what I'm going to talk about. So mine is by way of contribution. And when I hear my colleagues talk about there is a light at the end of the tunnel, then I begin to wonder. It's as if I'm proposing to a lady and I'm hoping that one day she accepts the proposal. I don't think that in the practice of the law we should be thinking about, or we should be talking about that. Why do I say so? The point is that we don't expect law firms to give us millions of Ghana cedis to keep in our pockets as junior lawyers or pupils and all that. But there must be value for money. So if I go to work at 8 a.m. and I am coming back at 10 p.m., all right, and at the end of the month, they give me, say, 2,000 cedis. I don't think that that's value for money, because the input, what I have put in terms of the work and what I am receiving at the end of the month, obviously is nothing to write home about. So I don't believe that, look, we should line up. It's like we're in a queue. When it gets to your turn, you enjoy it. And life is short. It's not as if you have it all to live and then you have to wait till when it gets to your turn, then you have to enjoy. I don't believe in that at all. If a junior can make 1 million Ghana cedis within the first year, he should be able to do it once he puts in the work. Now, I want to come back to the Ghana Bar Association. I don't understand why the Ghana Bar Association can set a fee structure when you are charging clients, but they cannot set a fee structure when it comes to paying pupils. And I have to be specific to pupil because pupillage is compulsory. So you go to Gimpa, you pay over 15,000, 20,000 Ghana cedis a year, and then you come out and then pupillage, they give you 1,500 because there's no quota. The Ghana Bar can argue that, okay, I mean, we are not a labor commission, we don't set minimum wage and all that. But I asked them, and I'm throwing up the challenge to them, if you can set a fee structure for lawyers to charge clients, why can't you set a fee structure to bind law firms who want to take in people? Because pupillage is like, look, let me pick you and use you in quotes. Let me use that in quotes without any disrespect to law firms. But let me pick you and use you because I can give you any amount. Do you see? So I think that the Ghana Bar is not doing so much, when it comes to that aspect, and pupils are new in the profession. They want to see that, look, this is a profession that I am coming in to work, do what I want to do and enjoy. And the enjoyment comes with how much I will receive. So like I said, I don't believe that we should all join the queue and then when it comes to our turn, we enjoy. That shouldn't be the case. We should be paid, or pupils and lawyers, junior lawyers should be paid based on the value or the inputs that they put in the work, basically.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Francis. Well said. We have a question from Na. Are you still there? Okay, it looks like Na is not back. And we have a question, raised hand from Rolo. Rolo, if you want to go ahead with your contribution or question, please do.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. I've been following the conversation. I don't know if it was discussed before I joined, but hello. Hi, can you hear me now? Can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying that I've been following the conversation, but then I realized that there is one aspect of the conversation talking about new lawyers managing expectations and coming into the practice that I think we are probably missing. That issue is to do with the issue of gender when it comes to getting into the profession. Now, we must admit that there are two kinds of people. There are the men and there are the women. The coming into the law, especially for people who had degrees before going on to do post-first degree and then coming to School of Law and then completing, you find out that they come out, the women come out at a certain age where you are out of law school, you are probably looking at family, you are looking at work, and then you are looking at a career progression. I would want to see a conversation where we can have somebody who can actually speak to what the expectations are, what the prospects are for women coming in here, because let us face the facts. Ghana School of Law graduates more women than men, last time I checked, in recent years. So please, maybe that's a conversation we should have at another time, but then let's try our best to factor them in. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Rulo. I think that there's actually another talk in the works with female lawyers, because today we have all males. And so that's something that we will do as well. So we'll send out one of our flyers to let you know when that happens. Okay, so do we have any other questions or contributions, please? Our lawyers are still on, so you can just unmute yourself and go ahead.
My question is to Lawyer Bendako. I know he worked in one of the most prestigious law firms in Ghana, and I know at a point he left as a junior lawyer. So why did he leave? And is there something that maybe if they did, he wouldn't have left? That is to Obendako.
Okay. See, from my experience, eventually, I think at every point in a person's life, you think about your career path. So it got to a time where I felt I needed a different direction from what I was used to doing out there in the law firm. So it was more of an issue of trying to choose a slightly different career path from, or more or less taking a break from what the rigorous active private practice I was doing. So it was more, trying to have a little bit of a balance. And as one of the speakers just said, that it gets to a time where several considerations do come in. Well, I think it was Rulu who was making a case for women that it comes with family and then other considerations. So I think I got to that stage where I felt I needed that kind of retreat, re-strategize, and then come back. So that is the point I found myself. So I had to retreat a little, put one or two things together, re-strategize, and then launch myself back into the practice. So basically, that was the reason why I had to take a little bit of deviation from what I was doing out there.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Lawyer, I'll say, do you have any other questions or contributions?
My next question is to Maxwell. Maxwell is also known to be propagating the notion that most lawyers are poor. So let's hear from him. But there are other people also believe that Maxwell is very rich, but he's just throwing dust in the eyes of young lawyers. So once Maxwell is here, Maxwell, is it true that lawyers are poor and that you are very rich, but you don't want the young lawyers to enjoy some of your money? That's why you are discouraging people from venturing the law.
Well, I mean, I would say amen if you say I'm rich. That's what I would say. But I mean, I don't think I said lawyers are poor. I never said that anywhere. All I was saying is that we should manage our expectations when we are coming to the profession. That was the exact thing that I said. I never said lawyers are poor. And in fact, that is the reality. From listening to all the speakers, you will know that indeed in the beginning it's not easy. And that's what I was saying out there. I mean, there are some people who are 6, 7 years, 8 years at the bar who are still struggling at the bar. So the case is not that lawyers are poor. As Senior Stephen rightly said, it takes time. So if you come into the profession and you want to make money within the first 2 or 3 years, until by the favor of God, I don't think that you can make that amount of money that you need within that short period. And that is what I'm saying out there. So, but me being rich, maybe the law is not the only thing that I do. And if you say I'm rich, I wouldn't say I'm poor. I will tap it. So I think that I will say amen to that. But the truth is that I didn't find it easy when I became, a lawyer. It wasn't easy at all. I came into the profession thinking that maybe I should be making at least maybe 5,000 for pupillage. That can take care of my at least my accommodation, my medicals, and all those. And I didn't, and that expectation wasn't met. So I was disappointed. And to date, that's a reality. I can't sit here and say that I am getting or I'm receiving what I expect to get even 5 years at the bar. And that's the reality. So it's not the fact that lawyers are poor. We just have to manage our expectations. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Maxwell. Thank you, Lawyer Osei, as well. Do we have any other questions or contributions from the audience? If you do, you can just go right ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, while we are waiting for some questions, I just want to know, you mentioned being able to take care of yourself with the salary that you are earning as a pupil and even as a lawyer. And Maxwell, you mentioned that first. I just want to know, how would you say that being a lawyer has affected your relationship with your family and being able to spend time with family and friends? Because you do know that sometimes it could be long hours. And would you say that it's been rather to a detriment to your family life?
My family, well, I'm not married, so I mean, so it's just, but for friendship, when I was in law school, I lost quite a number of friends when I was in law school, because I spend most of my time in school. I'm always at the faculty library reading. So obviously, as nature goes, but you become more familiar with the people that you learn every day with. So that affected my friendship with some people. But in terms of helping my family and being a lawyer, that statement I made came from somebody said something on one of the social media platform that their family had to go through some hardship when his brother was in law school, and now that the brother is a lawyer, it's time for them to reap. And that is what actually compelled me to come out there and say, hey, hold on right there. It's not that easy. So you should, yes, he'll make it, but it's not going to be in the 2 or 3 years from now. So just encourage him and let him, work hard and make the money. But if you expect to come and take up the whole family within 1 year or 2 years, that is not possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Maxwell. Joseph, I see that your hand is raised. Do you have a question or a contribution, please?
Okay. My name is Joseph Ekuban. I'm not a lawyer. I'm actually a veterinary doctor. It's through Stephen Obendaku. He happens to be a very good friend of mine, but I'm married to a lawyer. So that's why I sort of joined in. I'm passing through because I have something to do, and I just want to put in this quick one. I think with regards to salary structures in various institutions, especially when the graduates come out, or these professional graduates come out, and then they have to start learning on the job, pupillage, housemanship, national service. It is a national discussion that needs to be had. And also what we are all talking about with regards to starting and hustling through to get to the top, it is done mostly everywhere. Some get lucky, they land the great, institutions. They get to be in very good organizations, and then they continue working their ways up to the top. So I feel we just have to encourage ourselves, because we are found in a system where the structure is not well organized. We don't have right structures to put things in the right places. So you always have to start somewhere, hustle, do whatever you can to get there. So I'll encourage you all, because I know how things are. I started like that, and I'm still working my way to the top. I know Steven is doing quite well, but he says still there's room for improvement. So that's how it is. And like the other guy said, you may be paid $1.1 million, but you still wish to get to maybe 0.2, 0.4. So there's nothing like it's comfortable, because the rich people are still trying and struggling. They are not sleeping. So I feel with everyone, you just have to encourage yourselves and then work hard and then get to where you want to get to. This is an individual decision to do, but trying to rely on the government and on the groups or the society, this Ghana Bar Association, my own will be the Veterinary Council of Ghana. They can do what they can, but they can't do too much. So I'll encourage you all that you put in the work and you'll be fine. Stuart, regards to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that amazing contribution, Joseph. I think it's really nice to see people outside of the profession, seeing how much the people in the profession struggle sometimes. And so it's nice and comforting to hear.
It's an affiliate of the profession.
Which is very good. We like as many affiliates as possible. So I've just posted a document on the chat, which is a guideline from I believe the General Legal Council. And actually it's a guideline that talks about what pupils should do once they start pupillage, and it stipulates payment terms as well. And so if it's something that lawyers want to take a look at while they are, when they have the chance, that would be also good. I thought because we were talking about pupillage, it will be something to bring in as well. Do we have any more questions or contributions, please?
Yes, just a quick one on the point that Maxwell was talking about, the fact how the legal profession affects your relationship. I think to a large extent, and I'll speak on for myself. I think when I started the law practice, I lost a lot of acquaintances because you virtually your mornings are fully booked because you are in court from morning to, let's say, 12 or 1 p.m. And then you close the court, back to the office, you start doing office work. And then from there, you have meetings upon meetings. And that is what eats into late into the night. So you realize that out of the 24 hours in the day, when you take out your sleeping times, your meal time, and other personal time for yourself, virtually you are working throughout the rest of the hours. So what would happen is that you get your friends telling you, oh, since you became a lawyer, we call you, you don't pick up. It's not deliberate, okay? Sometimes you are just not available to pick up the call. And by the time you are available, it is just not reasonable to call back. So if you've closed, let's say 12 midnight, you closed 1 a.m., are you going to return a call at 1 a.m.? It is just not possible. And then the cycle just continues. So that is how you are going to lose some of your friends. But in all of it, I think one thing lawyers should also take note is that in as much as you are doing work for clients, also have time for yourself and have time for people who matter. I mean, if have time for relationship, at the end of the day, my experience is clients come and go, but friends and family stay on forever. When you are going through difficult times, you are not going to call a client. You are going to call a friend. You are going to call a brother. But then if you dedicate all your time for clients, I'm not saying disregard your clients. Yes, you have to do your professional work, but also make sure that you have time for yourself. You have time for the people who are important to you. At the end of the day, if you are not too careful, it will affect a lot of the legal profession, the legal practice will affect a lot of your relationships. But then you just have to know how to do a proper balance to make sure that you don't lose it all in the end. Yes.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That's very well said. I think that I can personally attest to this. I feel like after being in law school, I felt like I lost almost a year of my life, not even remembering what was going on. I just want to know for Eubank and for Aaron, would you say that this is a similar situation for you, that you weren't able to reach out to family and friends as often, and sometimes you even have people getting upset with you because it seems like you are no longer the person's friend? Eubank, if you are still there, do you mind giving us your opinion on this?
I think that's it's a situation that we can all relate to, because the thing about law is that sometimes you become a slave to the profession, and so it's very normal for you to lose friends and for people to become, sometimes it gets annoying because I mean others are also working, and so you make it look like you're the only one who is busy and all that. But it's something that comes with the profession. But I've also realized that with these things, it's sometimes also about how you prioritize your time. If you're able to prioritize your time well, then you can also attend to some of these things. And so for me, it's just like my senior said, it's the same thing. And there's one other thing that I would want to touch on before. I realized that most of our seniors spoke on managing expectations, and that's very normal. But when it comes to basic things like paying SNITs, and maybe because sometimes you work in law firm, for most law firms, for most junior lawyers I hear from, their SNIT is not even being paid. And it's an issue. And this is something which is supposed to be done. And so when you talk about managing expectations, I feel like it's a term that's been abused. It looks like we are all comfortable about being in a cycle where junior lawyers slave away without actually getting money for the work they do till they get to a certain situation or point in their lives before they realize the returns. But we can actually advocate for very little things like paying of SNIT. I don't think that it will take so much for law firms to pay the SNIT of junior lawyers, or even go a step further by even taking care of things like health insurance. It won't take so much for them to do that. So whilst we talk about junior lawyers managing their expectations, we should also try and at least make steps for the situation to be improved, because it can actually be improved. Because for most junior lawyers, they see the kind of transactions they work on, and they see the kind of money that comes in, and then they see the kind of money that they get. It's just not so fair. And so that's where I'll end on.
Thank you so much, Eubank. That's a very good point I think you brought up. And I think that a number of people I've spoken to have said the same thing, being able to get health insurance and even get your SNIT paid. It's something that's really difficult for a lot of firms, and it's something that they should consider. Do we have any questions or contributions? Before I do that, Aaron, do you mind telling us your experiences as well in terms of not being able to communicate with family and friends? Okay, I think we lost Aaron. Do we have any other questions or comments from the audience? If you do, you can just unmute your mic and go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm Sayram. I'm a student.
Hello, Sayram. Thank you for joining. Please go right ahead with your question or contribution.
Okay, so my question is, I've been following closely, and my question is, how do you monitor growth as a legal practitioner or as a lawyer? Okay, for us students, sometimes you can look at our grades and then the comments from our lecturers and all that. So as a legal practitioner, because I believe that even after you become a lawyer, you still have to learn, continue learning, and then grow in knowledge and wisdom and all that. So how do you monitor growth? That's my question, please.
Thank you so much, Sayram. Would any of the lawyers like to take this question?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I think I'll say if your fundamentals are weak, the court will expose you. That is if you practice in the law court. So I mean, at the practicing stage, we all believe that, hey, you are adults, you can take decisions for yourself, and that is why there wouldn't be exams for you to write, or there wouldn't be assessments per se. But at the end of the day, I think it reflects in your work. And as you rightly said, even when you start the practice, it doesn't mean you stop learning. Each day comes with its own challenges. Each case comes with its own challenge. And so if you think that what you learned 4 years ago is still what is applicable now, I mean, you will go to court and probably disgrace yourself or something. So nobody is going to do your assessment, but then I think largely it reflects in your outputs. For instance, if you are working in a corporate environment and you've been given an assignment, you've been asked to render an opinion on something, and you fail to do extensive research, you fail to do extensive reading on it, and then you deliver the opinion, your bosses act on it. By the time you realize you are plunging the organization or the institution into a very huge ditch. So yes, you are not going to have anything or anybody to measure you per se, but your output determines what you've been absorbing in with your free time and the level of industry inputs you put in your work. So yes, once you start practicing, it shouldn't be a stop for you to you shouldn't stop learning. It's a constant reading. It's something, that's why it is called practice. So it's a continuous thing that you will be doing. So yes, it is your outputs that will measure the sort of lawyer you are being. So yes, so yeah, I think that is what it is.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Sayram, I hope that answered your question. Do we have any other questions from the audience, please? If we do, you can just go right ahead and mute yourself and ask your question or contribution. I see that there is a hand raised from Danso Amwa. Kindly go ahead.
Okay. Good evening to all of you, and it's been a really entertaining, I may say, an insightful session listening to all the lawyers who are panelists today. I just want to comment on Sayram's question. First, I would say that for any individual and in whatever you are engaged in, to the best measure of your growth would be being true to yourself. If you're doing something and you are not seeing progress, you know it much more than any other person. If you would really be truthful to yourself, you would know it. So that if yesterday you could do algebra in a certain manner, and today you are not able to do it even as you used to do yesterday, or today you are still at that level, you know it deep within you, you know that I am not progressing. I have not improved in the last 6 months. I still write the way I used to write about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I still negotiate the way I used to do it. When issues come up, my strategy is as terrible or is as good as it used to be 3 years ago. It just means you are not growing. So I think that much more of it will lie with yourself. Just always do a personal assessment. And that would help if, for instance, for every year or for every 6 months, you have a certain target that you want to reach yourself, or you have certain people that you look up to. So start with yourself, look at yourself, look within you. If you are improving, you would know. I mean, I have not practiced law for long, but anytime when I have not really been making much progress or have not been growing, I know it. I realize it immediately. Sometimes I can turn in something and I want to tell the person I sent it that I didn't do really well on this one. I know, and it was because of this and this, or because I felt I am not putting in much, or maybe I'm having this issue, or this what is worrying me. So look within you and you would know whether you are improving or not. And I mean, get people to who you work with. It could just even be your colleagues. If you are not very open, they may not be willing to tell you that they don't think they are seeing the progress. But if you are, and you're the type that is willing to accept feedback, you're the type that is always able and willing to talk to people and accept their opinions, I'm sure they will tell you. And talk to your bosses, be free. I mean, sometimes you would think that maybe if you ask, someone is going to be very critical, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the person says. You should just know how to take the feedback that is coming from the other side. And one other thing too is that you should just be so willing and ready to learn. You should be able to accept that you don't know it all and you are always on a journey of learning, so that even if from a particular person that you think you need the help, or from someone that you think would show you the way, doesn't like you, or it doesn't like the attitude or whatever it is, you should still be willing to ask them and seek help from them. I was once telling someone that there are about 5 or 6 people that I can count whom I don't like. In fact, if I met them today and they ask me if I like them, I'll tell them I don't like you. But I will also tell them that when you did this, or when you told me this, or when I wanted to make this decision, I made this decision because you told me this. And that's because I think I like this aspect of your life, but I don't like you as a human being. I cannot be your friend. But I think that you know what you're about, you know your onions. You are the kind of person that when you tell somebody about certain things in this area, you know what you're talking about. So be willing and ready to learn, be willing to measure yourself, speak to people, be ready to take criticisms. At the end of the day, it's about what you get and not what the person thinks of you or what the person would even make you feel, because at the end of the day, feelings really don't do us much good. So just look at yourself, be true to yourself, have a metric for measuring your own self, talk to people, colleagues, anywhere, everywhere. At the end of the day, you want to improve, you want to grow. Once you get it, it really wouldn't matter who helped you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that contribution.
I just want to add something real quick to what
Go
my brother Danso just said. And I think that for lawyers, especially for students, we are quick to say that your growth reflects in your knowledge of the law, which I think that we have to erase such perception, because I mean, as a lawyer, you're always learning. And even when a brief is it's a question or a brief before you, even if you know what the law says, you still have to go back and cross check before you can actually advise. So for me, I learned very early that in the firm that I work with, even if it comes to even entry of appearance, we still have to go to the rule book and read it again. Even we have seniors who are 10 years or 11 years at the bar. But I think that what we have to learn now is that your growth in the law is your understanding of what is in front of you and not your knowledge of the law. So that's what I wanted to add here.
Thank you so much. That's a very good point. I think we are just about rounding up now. I'll take the last question and then the last comments from our lawyers, if anybody wants to go ahead.
Okay,
so
maybe
I wanted to ask a question before you go on.
Okay.
Just to sum everything up, what would you individually say would be your advice for young lawyers coming up or people who want to study law? And Senior Stephen, we'll start with you.
Okay. First of all, to people who want to study law, I think yes, it's a noble profession. not a noble profession, the noble profession, as the former Chief Justice would say. It is the noble profession. So for people who are aspiring to read law, yes, it's a good venture. I'll encourage you to pursue it. If you have the ambition for it, if you have the, if you are still interested to do it, I will encourage you to seriously pursue it. At the end of the day, apart from the remuneration aspect that we talked about, it is also fulfilling, and that's for me. It is quite fulfilling. So if you have the interest, go in for it. Now, to my juniors who have been recently called to the bar and the young lawyers, I'd say be serious with the law. Maxwell said something that it is not easy to go through the 6 years, 7 years of legal education. It takes a lot of diligence, it takes a lot of effort. And once you've been able to scale through and gotten yourself called to the bar, don't relax on the things that you used to do. Keep reading the law, keep learning the law, keep applying yourself to the work. In the end, it's you will also find it fulfilling. But I can't leave without talking about one thing that always works for me. Above all things, pray. Above all things, the mercies and the favor of God also count. So you can know all the laws in Ghana, but there is still certain things I believe in that there are, Maxwell mentioned that point, that there are people who are 2 years and are making billions of dollars. I know Maxwell is one of such persons who has been blessed to making millions of dollars even at. So I think, yes, whilst you are studying, whilst you are applying yourself to the law, whilst you are taking your profession serious, whatever you believe in it well, dedicate some time for it. And then at the end of the day, everything will fall in its right places. So that is what basically I have for my people. Yes.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Senior Maxwell, there seems to be a general consensus that you are making a lot of money. I think we want to hear from you as well in terms of what advice you'd have for young lawyers so that we can all be like you. I think you are still on mute. If you could just unmute yourself.
Okay, I think my senior Stephen has said it all. What I would like to add to this is we should take our mental health serious as lawyers, and that is something that most lawyers do not consider. We tend to focus more on the law than our own well-being. We carry people's problems every day. You have sleepless nights just to win a case in court, and it becomes stressful by the day. And this goes to both, lawyers, junior lawyers, and students. That in as much as the course demands a lot from us, we should still have time for our mental health, which is very important. As to the notion that I'm very rich, I'll just say amen to God. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maxwell. I think that's something that is not talked about enough, mental health in the legal profession. It's such an important thing to talk about. And I think one of the things recently that was going around was a lawyer from Clifford Chance who spoke about his work in the energy sector and then going through mental health issues and how they were able to ensure that people in their firm had a place to go when they were not feeling themselves. And so it's something that is really important within the profession, especially for students as well. And so thank you for touching on it. Senior Yuba, do you mind kindly letting us know what advice you have for young lawyers?
I'm a junior myself, so I'm picking up the nuggets of wisdom that seniors have shared. I think that there's not much to add to that. The only thing I can add to that is that we should be, as young lawyers, we should be intentional about the senior lawyers we work under, because that could probably determine the path that you go. And Idris and I, we have Onismos as our senior, and he's been very, very helpful to us. So as young lawyers, I feel like one of the best ways to move ahead is being intentional about the senior lawyer you work for or the senior you work under, because your legal part, because sometimes there's a thing about reputation. Sometimes the reputation of your senior robs off you, and it could actually define your career path or your legal path for as many years as it can. So be very intentional about the senior you work for. Be very intentional about the law firm or the company you want to work for. You don't need to just jump to anything, because the thing is that sometimes you want to balance actually getting, because sometimes the firms where you can actually get experience from is the firms that pay the least. And so you should actually try and balance those two things, actually being able to get good enough remuneration and getting good experience. So that's the advice I'll give to young lawyers like myself. To law students, I would only say that, I mean, they are good enough. I don't think that the law, even though there's this supposed thing about the noble profession, I think that anyone who applies himself can do it. The only issue is the artificial bottlenecks that have been placed in most people's ways by GLC and the other bodies, but everyone who applies himself can do it. And so if you want to do it, just go ahead, you can do it. Yeah.
Very well said, Senior Eubank. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Senior Aaron, you'll be somebody's senior very soon. You already are. So Senior Aaron, do you mind letting us know your experience is and what advice you'd have for actually young lawyers who are also doing pupillage and also students? What advice do you have for them? Aaron, I think we are having a little bit of trouble with your network. I'm not sure if you can hear us. Hello, Aaron.
Okay, thank you very much, Idris. And firstly, I'd just like to admonish everyone, especially those who are aspiring to become. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Idris, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Senior Eubank said, I think that all of students or everyone who's aspiring to become a lawyer is capable. He's capable. You just have to make sure that you put in the effort. I'd just like to admonish you that you must brace yourself, because it is a very daunting task. It's going to drain you financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It's going to drain you, and you have to prepare for that. And for those of us who have been privileged to be called to the bar and our pupils or our young lawyers now, let us take a cue from what our senior lawyers have said today, and let us put in the work and the effort, because we know that this is a difficult profession. You know, I just started my pupillage on Monday, but I've already been to court and I slept at 12 today. It's difficult, and it requires that you put in a lot of hard work and diligent effort. We are going to get there. So thank you all so much for joining today, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. That was really helpful. So we've come to the end of our program today. I think we went on a little bit because the conversation was really interesting. I just want to say thank you to Lawyer Stephen, Lawyer Maxwell, Lawyer Eubank, and Lawyer Aaron for joining us today. I want to say thank you to all the people who actually joined this conversation. We had so many people joining today, and for all the contributions. Thank you so much. My name is Idris Mbia. I was your host for today, and we've come to the end of this session. Join us next week for another interesting session. Thank you.
Thank you, Idris. And I know we'll be seeing you more often as the host. So hope to see you next week as well.
Thank you, Onesmus.